All right, IDS 302. Welcome to Module 4. This is going to be a long one. Uh, Consider yourself warned. Having some trouble with lighting. I tried to improve this. I got this light. I thought maybe I could. I don't know. I don't know. Hey, it's late today. This is my first video of the day out of 3 classes, and it's, what is it? It's November 8th, Monday, and it is 5 o'clock p.m. Arizona time, which is now Mountain time, right? Okay, we're the same. Those of you in the West Coast, lucky you, it's an hour earlier. Those of you in Central time, I'm only an hour behind you, and East Coast is 2 hours ahead. So, okay, Module 4, let's do some housekeeping first and things that I wanted to talk about. There's an article, I'm going to add these links. You can look at them. I just wanted to point them out. One of them is from New York Times from the 31st of October saying not everyone in New York wanted the coronavirus to lose. That's kind of an interesting thing, I think, but check it out. I'm not going to dwell too much on these. Okay, here's one. The tangled history of mRNA vaccines in Nature, all right, on nature.com. But this is close to compilation of peer-reviewed sources, and it gives you a real. I mean, I was reading it on my phone one night. I couldn't put it down, and it's about as dry as it gets. But if you're someone who has, heard all the arguments about the COVID, the vaccine, not getting the vaccine, if you were a fan of Aaron Rodgers like I was, and then all of a sudden his head exploded. What's going on up there at Cal Berkeley is what I'd like to know. Anyhow, to find out the history of mRNA vaccines, the tangled history of mRNA, it's so interesting. Okay, now I will admit that there was a small passage in here that gave me great pause. In other words, the people that have said, oh, well, I'm allergic to two of the ingredients, Aaron Rodgers. What are they? Let's hear it. Or oh, I can't, because I'm a 52-year-old male who's a 40-year-old woman in childbearing years or something. I mean, it's just so weird, the illogical resistance. Okay, whatever. Did you get all your vaccines when you were a kid? I mean, if you grew up in the 60s, 70s, have you seen polio around much lately? You know why? Because there's vaccine. So if you talk about the speed with which the vaccine was developed, you should look at this because it's back to the 80s, okay? Which for me is still kind of like new music. Hey, look, it's Whitney Houston on VH1. It's new. Um, but it really is an interesting article about what an mRNA COVID vaccine is, what it does. I'm a humanities guy, but this still is interesting to me. So I was telling you about there's something that gives me pause, and it's because yes, if you know how these are done. By the way, there's a nice timeline too, starting in 1960, going to 2020, talking about what the mRNA does. Okay, and in terms of for the COVID, and I wanted to maybe find it. Let's see if I can find it. I'm looking for spike. Spike. Wait, what does this say? Correction. Okay, so uh, okay, they talk about patents and things in here, but okay, it says that both authorized vaccines use modified mRNA formulated in LNPs. That's lipofats or something. Both also contain sequence that encode a form of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. So it actually, okay, it encodes a form of the spike. It adopts a shape more amenable to inducing protective immunity. So the spike is in there. It induces your immune system to fight that. And then basically it gives it the blueprint to do so for protective immunity. Many experts say that the one protein tweak tailored for coronaviruses by NIAID vaccinologist Barney Graham and structural biologist so-and-so is also a Nobel Prize-worthy contribution, albeit one that's not specific. So it's just very interesting. So I was thinking about that, as that's the only thing. After that, your body just, it teaches it how to destroy that. So then it destroys what the vaccine sent in there, because it did its job. I don't know what gave me pause. I was thinking, maybe in some kind of science fiction world, all of a sudden we're going to get a bunch of these spikes in our system. No, it's not. Stop it. Okay. Anyways, am I just babbling? Yes. All right. Let's look at another one article. CDC, the leading causes of death. These numbers only through 2019. And what does this have to do with research? A lot, everything. Okay. Did you know through 2019, the top seven, one, two, three, four, five, six, top seven causes of death in the United States are not contagious. Okay, heart disease, cancer, accidents, chronic lower respiratory diseases. I mean, I guess you could say it might be, but heart disease was at 659,000. We've had 750 plus thousand already COVID deaths. Granted, it's been over the course of a year and a half, but still, it's up there as a cause of death. It's a leading cause of death. Okay, that needs to change, and it's contagious, highly contagious. One could say, right? All right, here's another one. Tools suggesting humans reached Mexico 30,000 years ago may not be what they seem. This is very interesting because it's a heated debate between archaeologists, and it's interesting because it has to do with research, right? And another team of researchers, they argue that this could have been shaped by natural process. I mean, there's all kinds of verbiage in here that's important as researchers to understand. They're not proving anything. They're just showing what it could be. God, that light is driving me nuts. But if not, I become like Two-Face, right? I got half my face lit up, half not. In terms of Aaron Rodgers and research, oh, sorry, this is different. Evidence of humans in North America during the last glacial maximum. This is from science.org, and it's actually the paper about the early footsteps in that really kind of changed the way we're looking at things. And then evaluating claims of early human occupation at Chicohete Cave, Mexico. Again, this is research. This is what research does. And finally, the Chicohete Cave and America's hidden limestone industries, a reply to chatters at all. This is just very interesting, and see how this is done, how research is done, and what it looks like, right, to be a better consumer of knowledge. Okay, now I'm just going to go through my things on my list. Reminder for phone meetings to all students in all classes, especially this one, especially as we get into the papers. Okay, and I'll get to your step 2 in a minute. Step 1. Okay, let's go to Easter egg number 1 right away and say that it's research advances our society. And it's time to put my other glasses on. Research advances our society. Again, who writes these? I have no idea. But now I can see a little better close up. Okay, the HAL video. Thank you again for those views on my video on YouTube. And it's just a trap. It's a trap. Hey, most professors make you buy their book, right? I'm glad everybody seemed to dig it, enjoy it enough. Hal, I call him my big brother. He isn't my big brother. I met him when I just started displaying my art at a local market. He was a couple booths down. He was blasting some 60s music on while he was setting up. We got to talking. He handed me a case of about 100 CDs, and here said, put those on your iPod. This is back 2007, I think, 2008. We've been buddies ever since. I used to go over to his house around on the street. We just sit out on Friday nights, drink whiskey, smoke cigars. He'd smoke something else, and we'd talk, and he'd have the greatest stories and greatest things. And I always said, got to write a book about you. Got to do a movie about you, Hal. Got to do a movie about you. And so opportunity came up one way or the other one. I mean, Hal is former Hell's Angels, although they say once you're in, you never get out. But he's kind of emeritus Hell's Angels. So he's seen some things, but he's a great guy. he moved to Hawaii, moved back to Hawaii now. He lives there. I don't get to see him. I text him every so often. We text each other, and um, we had a little chat months ago. I think it was during the Black Lives Matter stuff in Minneapolis. That's where his wife had. They have a house out there. Or his wife does, I think, and the windows broke or something. He was complaining about something on text, and I jumped his case a little bit about a lack of open-mindedness on what was going on, who was doing what. And I think he had been drinking because he said he was going to fly here the next day and come and kick my ass, which was kind of funny. Next day, I just apologized to him. I said, "Hal, you're right. Sorry about that, brother." And he forgave me. But sometimes you got to. Sometimes it's better to be kind than it is to be right. So yeah, but he's so that's good. That's a real big brother. Um, Hal's a little rough around the edges, right? I mean, the misogyny is clear. I mean, he talks about girls and babes and what else? Gals, in many ways. That's old school stuff that I don't go for, but that's Hal's style. Um, Great stories, though, right? And I want to say this, and shout out to Mary Miller, who put in a discussion about Hal, such a great storyteller, and or an innate ability for bullshit. And as I commented back to Mary, that I agree with that because I used to think about that when I listened to his stories. I was like, how much of this is he embellishing or is he doing anything with? And this is something that we're going to get into in a minute here because I really want to talk about why this exercise I think is important. Um, all the comments were great. The suggestions were great. I mean, the disciplines were good choices. Obviously, I'm very proud of this. This is my work. I did this. I made this. I'm very proud of it. It might be the best thing in my portfolio with all my including all my mixed media and things like that. I don't know if you can see this from here, but it's one of my favorites. See that? That's Hal right there. That's Hal. I took that and one day we did a photo shoot out in Awatuki. Um, so here's the disciplines that everybody came up with. Okay, art history, applied art, studio art, music, religion, Jewish history, cultural sociology, conflict theory, journalism, entrepreneurship, communication, marketing, geography, farming, interactionism. That's an interesting one. Military science, military sociology, business, and film. Okay, I want to really, those are good, but I really want to talk about the last one, film. I think one student had it. Um, can't remember who it was. Sorry, young man. I know it was you, but um, because when you look at what this was and what I asked you to do, this was my master's capstone project for interdisciplinary studies, right? This isn't a trick, but the trick is you looked at it, you watched it, you saw all those disciplines in there, you saw all those things in there, but take the lens back. I was interdisciplinarian. What did I have to integrate to create this? What did I have to learn about? Like you have your concentrations. What did I have to grab in terms of concentration? I took film production, editing, okay? I took ideology courses. I had to learn how to do sound. I had to learn. So if you think about it, like I said, pulling back from all those that you gave me, but videography or video production, that's a discipline. I'd learn about cameras. You notice some of these shots, you see a little iPhone on a tripod. I had a fisheye lens on that one shooting up at him from, in front of him. I had my 35 millimeter DSLR video going with a shotgun mic on the tripod going. And then I walked around. I had an iPhone on my iPhone on a selfie stick, and I would walk around and get higher shots. So it looked like I had three camera people there, and it was just me. I had to learn how to do all this stuff, okay? In fact, my iPhone, whenever it would ring, I'd have to stop the presses because my phone would stop. But um, I had to learn all about that, okay? The sound, I had multiple sources of sound. The boom mic, I had a microphone right in front of him. I use Premiere Pro to, and I never did before, to edit, to do the sound, okay? The old photos, you'll see a lot of them, those are the photos that are actually Hal's or old photos. I did the squiggly line around it because that's how we used to get them. I had to think about copyrights, okay? Because I used some pictures that I got offline, general ones, that you have to be concerned about copyrights, okay? It's not my stuff, right? Now, here's an important thing. This is the pièce de résistance in terms of discipline. You ready for it? Oral history. Oral history. That's what this is, an oral history, videography. These are integrated. Okay, an oral history is someone telling their own story. Okay, it's a very valid, and it goes back to Mary's comment about the innate, is he good at just bullshit? Yes, but that's the way he remembers it. That's the way it happened for him. And this is what we're learning about in history, whether it's indigenous peoples or minorities, people that have not been in power to write their history. Their history's been written for them. Oral history is an important thing. So whether you have grandparents, things like that, you'll notice there's oh, I got this value. Oh, my grandmother, she, I was at a ex's place once in Connecticut, and we had her uncle, great uncle, came over for a holiday, and he was 100 years old. And so and her sister was like the curator at the African American Museum and at Cornell. No, it was at Yale. We were in New Haven, and I helped her to do this interview with him, oral history. Okay, it was exciting. Oral history is a very valid discipline. Okay, and with Hal's, I let him tell his story. He told it. We had a little script in terms of outline where we're going to go, and then he did it. We did it chronologically, but that's not how it was told. As you can see, I cut back and forth depending on how things fit. Okay, but it's oral histories are how we remember it. Like I have these best friends that I've known since kindergarten, most all since grade school. We're not in grade school anymore, right? That was 50, 60 years ago. And we always joke about who remembers what and how do we remember it. You know, I just saw an interview by Dan Rather with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. All three of them disagree on how they met, but they don't get mad. They just say that's just the way it is when you get older. There's a lot of value in that. Okay, I wanted to really I had to get good at these disciplines to integrate them, which is what interdisciplinarians do. Interdisciplinarians, we just don't have our two concentrations. That's it. We learn how to integrate. We learn what we need to do to put everything together. Okay, so yes, we're thinking about what academic knowledge needs to be integrated, and you spotted all that in that movie, and that's fine. But I just want to see who could pull that lens out and actually know the process of integration that took place in creating it. Okay. Easter egg number 2 is IDS is the field, integration is the process. You got that? Easter egg number 2 is IDS is the field, and integration is the process. And in my class, you cannot use the word integration too much. You can. In fact, last class, I had a guy used to joke with me in my 301. He goes, I swear I'm going to turn a paper in, just the word integration written 100 times, see what you say. And I said, you'd be surprised. You'd probably get a better grade than some people. Okay. So, all right, let's move on to module 4. I want to talk about the steps. Remember the steps. That's what we're doing. Tanner steps. Tanner's 5 steps. Okay. So step number 1 was to identify a complex problem, right? I mean, it was I like to get it word for word. I think I have it right about here. Page 34. Define a complex issue or problem. Be specific and provide background information concerning the issue problem. Very general, very generic. By the way, I'd like you to put the step up on top. I know it isn't like that in some of the samples, but just put it up to step 1, whatever step you're on. Okay. Step 2, which is what you just did and what I scored. Justify an interdisciplinary approach. What meaningful questions can you ask about the issue problem? How are these questions interdisciplinary? What makes them meaningful? So you remember about this. It doesn't say it here, but it doesn't have to. What kind of problems are suited and topics and artifacts are suited for interdisciplinary analysis? Complex ones. Complex. If you did not have the word complex used in your step 2, I dinged you harshly, probably. If you did not have a form of integration, I was disappointed, to say the least, because you're coming up again with different words when I've given it to you. You've come up with interdisciplinary this, interdisciplinary that. anything but interdisciplinary integration, interdisciplinary approach, which is integration. Okay, use those words. Use those words that I'm giving you for free. Integration, complexity. Without them, you are defining a multidisciplinary analysis and not integration, and doesn't need complexity if you didn't mention that. Okay, and every one of your topics should be complex. You should mention that. You need to talk about that. Okay, step 3 is coming up. We're going to talk about that in a minute here. So let me just quick jump. We did 1 and 2 there. Step 2, by the way, I scored them. You are allowed to redo, fix them. I mean, there are people that did a great job. We've got 100, a score of 100. I've got scores in the 90s. Some people struggle with it because they didn't do that. Okay, look at the sample. Set up a call with me if you want to. Here, I'd like to set a call with you at step 2. Okay. Okay, yeah. I understand some people are going to get angry, upset. But I just want to get your attention as to why it's important, and I'm going to have you do it, okay? It's not a reflection on you. It's not a reflection on the grade you're going to get, okay? It's a reflection on, hey, I want to get your attention, and I want us to do this right, okay? Otherwise, how did people get 100? How did people get 97, 95? How did that happen, okay? So step 2 is important. You're justifying an interdisciplinary approach. If you didn't justify it, I mean, you could use those words. How do you justify it? Are you just going to describe it again? The students that got 100 and got good grades, they actually asked the questions, asked some rhetorical questions. Well organized, well thought out, well use of sources, good sources, maybe 4 or 5 sources, not just 1 or 2. Okay? That's academic rigor. That's why you didn't score as high as you thought. Okay? So if you have specific questions, let me know, ask me, we'll talk about it, we'll set up a call, and we'll get you moving on this, okay? Because remember, what we're doing is 5 steps of integration to analyze an issue, a problem, okay? So now, let's talk about also in step 2, well, a couple of things, okay. An interdisciplinary justification must include verbiage that shows the topic, issue, problem to be complex, thus requiring an interdisciplinary approach through integration of disciplinary knowledge, period. That's what you need to do. Overpromising, don't overpromise. Nobody's really doing that anymore, so that's great because, like I said, it's not going to happen. Okay, now, a lot of you are starting to get away from 2 things. It's not an opinion piece, so if you write things that are opinions, you need to have it backed up by sources that are peer-reviewed. Not your opinion, okay? None of us have the credentials here to offer our opinions, our biases on this. We can have biases, but we're not writing that way. We shouldn't be writing that way, okay? Now, it's not an opinion piece. Remember the data that's going to be collected. These are random adults. You're getting the opinions, perceptions, and experiences. Some of the opinions, perceptions, and experiences of random adults. So think about that on the other end when you think about the assumptions. The assumptions have to do with the study, this study that you're doing, not the assumptions of, science regarding self-driving cars. It's the assumptions that you have about what your data may show. I believe my data may show a lot of support. The assumption is there's going to be a lot of support for Second Amendment gun rights without any control. Or I believe my assumption is going to show that most Americans are in favor of some reasonable gun control. Or the assumption is going to be that, CBD products are, certain ages are still hesitant to try them. Anything like that. Those are the assumptions, okay? And I've seen some good ones, but I've seen some that are having to do with something entirely different. Not what your study is, this study. Remember, no I, me, my, okay? But it's assumptions of this study. The limitations of this study also, and most of you overwhelmingly did correct on that, okay? So let's move on. Tanner, chapter 10 is your reading. It's about 6 pages, issues on global perspectives and team leadership. And then Tanner, chapter 11, about 8 pages, constructing interdisciplinarity, and then a hugely important video of 4 minutes, 42 seconds, how to write an annotated bibliography. If you watch this video, if you look at the sample, you will do just fabulous on your formatting of your annotated bibliography and your content. If you don't, you won't, okay? Because that's what step three is. Step three is technically locate multiple sources of relevant disciplinary knowledge, information, and perspectives that will address the issue problem. So what you're doing is locating those sources, peer-reviewed sources. They must be peer-reviewed sources. You go to the ASU library online, you'd search whatever you want to search. On the right side, it should be like filter your results or expand your results, and you'll get to open that up. You get a check box. You can check the box for full text online and check the box for peer-reviewed journals. And boom, you'll get thousands. And they'll all be online for you to access free, and they'll all be peer-reviewed, okay? Think of your sources and the data, the writing you're going to get. Think of it in terms of you're connecting your topic to random adults. Think about that down the road. So you're not going to dig into the science of self-driving cars as much as you might be digging into the science of self-driving cars in terms of safety or performance or usefulness or accessibility, those types of things that later in step 4, you're going to ask people out in your survey, okay? That's important to keep your eyes on that, all right? So your primary data collection assignment, okay? There'll be an assignment soon. You're going to post your survey link, and I will talk about that. I will do that in the video. I'll do that in the video next week, okay? Don't worry about that now. Start thinking about questions. I'll give you a hint. There will be no yes or no questions. There's no binary questions in this sample. Everything will be multiple choice or scale of intensity. Instead of yes or no, it's kind of like, oh, heck yes, and oh, hell no on this end, and everything in between. It's not yes and no, okay? Discussion this time is peer-reviewed sources. Discussion. I want you to go find 4 sources from each of your 3 disciplines you've chosen. 4 sources, peer-reviewed. You can put them, look at the sample I have posted there. It's not going to be perfectly formatted, but it's going to be those you can use in your step 3. So you're not wasting time here. You're actually just getting on it, looking for your sources, doing a rudimentary bibliography on those, and then you can use those in your actual step 3 annotated bibliography, okay? That's why I'm having you get a head start on that, all right? For step 3, again, we talked about that. The requirement is for 4 sources for each of the 3 disciplines. You'll get less score based on anything less, okay? I want you to keep being precise. You know, I can't always think of everything at every moment here, so unfortunately, but be precise. Understand you're doing 5 steps. Each one is progression towards the final. So you're doing a research project. You're identifying the problem you're going to research. Now you're justifying it as requiring interdisciplinary research. Now you're going to look for previous research that informs your study. It informs the study, okay? So you want to look under the disciplines you've chosen, and you want to find things that are peer-reviewed and that connect to the trajectory of your study in terms of surveying random adults, okay? So try to, if you need help with that, you just have to email me, okay? And then I think that's about it. I'm at 28 minutes. I guess we kept it under a half an hour, huh? So, okay, good work. Keep it going. Again, your step 2, you can redo it and resubmit it by Wednesday would be great. If you need more time, let me know. Let's say Thursday, okay? Resubmit it by Thursday. And if you need help before that, set up a call with me, okay? An important thing that sometimes slips past the goalie would be Easter egg number 3, and that is capitalize disciplines, okay? There's a lot of random capitalization. You don't need to capitalize student debt. You don't need to capitalize artificial intelligence. You can do it once. Artificial intelligence, then put AI afterward, and then use AI after that, okay? But capitalize the disciplines, okay? All right, everybody good? Contact me if you have issues with formatting, anything else like that. Forks up, peace. Did I say the Easter egg number 3? Capitalize disciplines.